Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, right? So make sure you guys go to YouTube, look us up, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, formerly the Deal to Heal Podcasting, Deal to Heal with E. James podcast page. But now we're offering you more podcasts. And so we're turning our channel into a podcasting network because there you can find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, as well as our partner podcast, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. On that podcast, I have discussions with other girl dads like myself to talk about the relationship between dads and daughters in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure you guys go check out the Girl Dad Discussions podcast on all of your podcast listening platforms, and also check out our YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products in order for you to purchase to help us to pay our bills. Our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, because I believe that we need to journal to be able to keep track of where we've been and where we are in life, as well as plan for our future. So you guys can get your copies of our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner on Amazon. The links is in the descriptions. You guys can check it out when you get a chance. Make sure you guys go look us up. Again, thank you guys once again for being here on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. K. Noel. How you doing?
What's going on, my brother, man? I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I am good. I'm good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So we're going to jump right into this thing, man. Do me a favor. Introduce yourself to my listeners and tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, first of all, thank you for having me on, man. It's an honor. It's a privilege, man. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now but be chilling with you and your people, man. So, but I'm K Noel. I prefer to say I'm an empowerment speaker. I am an author, um, podcaster, social media manager. Man, the list can go on and on. But my purpose and my inspiration behind everything I do is to encourage everybody to be relentless.
All right, all right. And speaking of you, you mentioned podcasts, and then you just said relentless. You do have the podcast, which is Relentless Conversations, right?
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure and honor of being a guest on your podcast. And I definitely want to thank you and appreciate you for having me on your platform. So, everybody that's listening, make sure we go also check out his podcast, which is Relentless Conversation. And definitely check out the episode with your boy, right?
Uh,
So, so Kay, let's go back a little bit, right? So, you mentioned about being a speaker and being an author. We definitely gonna talk about the books and just everything kind of that you're doing right now. But I know there's a story before the story,
yeah.
right? There's a story and there's a version of us before we became the version of ourselves that we are now. And usually there's a monumental event or something that happens that kind of turns the page for us, in our lives. So let's go back, to that person who was K Noel, in the early years. And then what was that thing that kind of sparked you to make that turnaround in order to then start doing the work that you do now?
Man, let's take it all the way back, man. So
Let's go. Let's go.
let's go all the way back to the teenage years, man. I kind of like Prince, man. I'm formerly known as the gangster called Crazy K. Crazy K. I like to refer to him as my middle child because
Mm,
it's like three stages. There's the boy, and there's the middle child, and then there's the grown man. So and the young boy was the hurt phase, and the middle child, he was the one that developed the hurt and start turning it into anger and rage.
mm,
So Crazy K was a hurt young boy. He struggled with a lot. He didn't know how to deal with the pain and the hurts from life. So, and like I tell everybody else, it's like he turned around and the first thing that he saw to embrace him was the streets. So I had my journey and my time on the street selling drugs, doing what I do. Um, and then it was that one day, June the 4th, 2003. Um, God told me to turn to him or else. And it was during a drug bust. And I knew, and the crazy thing about it is I knew this drug bust was gonna happen. I had a dream about it, man. And I remember telling the girl that I was dating at the time, what I felt was gonna happen. And her, well, don't speak that, all this kind of stuff. But I knew what I knew, but I didn't know. And what I like to say is that was the first time God spoke to me and I acknowledged it. That was
mhm,
my first time acknowledging that he was speaking to me. And it was, like I said, it was that turn to me or else. And it wasn't even about, being afraid of being locked up or something like that. It was like I knew I needed to change. I knew that, there was something greater for me than where I was at this moment. I think about a friend one time, she told me back then that she told me I was going to be a preacher or something like that or a speaker. I laughed it off, man. And now looking at where we are now, I guess the joke's on me. so, and that's where K Noel came from. He went on that journey. I remember even being sentenced. It was like God was in the whole situation. I remember being sentenced. I wrote a letter to the judge. I told him, I said, "Look, this is gonna be my last time seeing you. If you ever see me again, you can throw the book at me." I was just that confident, and I'm not going back to that you can throw the book at me. And did I have the challenges of wanting to go back? Absolutely, because it was hard, especially coming fresh out of jail. They sentenced me to 3 months in what they call, it was like a boot camp, which is like a a phase before going, being sentenced to prison or something like that.
Mm,
So I even there, it was a journey. I spent 2 months in county waiting on a bed in the boot camp because boot camp was for the state. Um, it was hardly times I came out of my jail cell. Only time I came out was to call moms, just to let her know her son okay. So other than that, I spent a lot of time, seeking God and, stuff like that. But there was a lot of times, the guys would come back there, ask for prayer, ask for advice. Man, even, I used to lead the block in prayer, even getting to boot camp, same thing. We used to sleep in like these like tent type houses, and the guys would come to me for advice. I'll never forget one time I was talking to we was betting on some basketball games. I was a coach. I was a coach for my tent, me and another guy. And I told them, that I knew that we was gonna lose. I saw it already because I have that prophetic view. Um, and I was talking to two people, and by the time I finished talking, the whole boot camp was there, listening to everything I had to say. And I didn't think about that till recently, just how powerful my voice is. Or and God has given me that gift that people want to hear what I have to say. It's a God given thing. It's not something that
mhm.
I can boast on that it's mine or anything. This is what God given me. So just thinking about that journey, man, that's in a summary, in a nutshell, that's the journey for K Noel.
Yeah, I want to go back because you said two things that I really, well, maybe three, that
Yeah.
I want to hit on. And first of all, let's go back to the boy, right? Because you
Yeah.
said that K Noel was kind of the middle child, but he came from the boy, the boy
But
child that was
Crazy
in
K,
that was in
Crazy K was the
Crazy
middle child.
K. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. That he came as a manifestation of the boy, that was in pain. Tell us just a little bit about that, of what was going on, at that young age, and then how, even, I know you said that the streets kind of accepted you, but probably what was that thing that made you even look toward the streets? And the reason why I say that, right? And I know it could be different stories, because I oftentimes talk about me and my brother. My brother is 1 year younger than me,
Yeah.
actually 1 year and 11 days,
Yeah.
right? So my birthday is May 1st. His birthday is May 11th of the next year. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So we literally like a year apart.
Yeah.
But in lifestyle and choices, we're like direct opposites. Same household, same mom and dad, same upbringing, but he was just like, yeah, I'm going this way. And so he got into the drugs and gangs and all of that things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because that was our environment, because it wasn't, at least not in our household. Definitely there were things going on, in the streets and in school and things of that nature, but that wasn't his example from our parents, should I
Yeah.
say. But yet that was his choice. Like from a young age, he was just like, yeah, I'm going this way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's how it was. So what was kind of the things that you may have been going through even at that time, that caused the pain? And then what, as it relates to the pain, that made you even look toward, maybe the streets, and saying, yeah, this is the way, kind of I'm probably gonna go.
Man. So you just had me think about a lot there. First of all, my parents, just like what you were saying, they never they weren't a part of that kind of lifestyle.
Hmm.
But it was in my bloodline.
Okay.
It was a generational thing. And I tell people a lot of times, and I'm sure you know this, one thing about generational curses, it can skip one
Hmm.
person and hit the next person.
Yep.
So it skipped one of my parents and it hit me. So if you know my dad, that's nowhere near his kind of his style of things. But again, it was in my bloodline. I won't go into deep details about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But what the little boy that was hurting, my parents divorced. And it was like that hurt, the pain, the things that I saw from that. And that's one thing about, as parents, I'm not a parent, but I know that, we as children, we see things that the parents don't know or realize that we see.
Mhm.
And I carried a lot of that burden. I carried a lot of that hurt from that. What child wants to see their parents divorce? So it was like, I didn't feel seen, because I'm a quiet person. And
Mhm.
I've been joking about that at work past couple of weeks when I've been speaking at work. I tell people, believe it or not, I'm a very quiet person. I'm a big
Mhm.
introvert.
Yep.
So I can be somewhere and be, pretty much undetected. Why? Because I'm so quiet. And because of little Ken, that's my first name, Kenneth, but they called me Lil Ken. Lil Ken was hurting and crying out for help, and nobody saw it. Nobody heard the cries, but the streets heard. And we know that the devil can use different tactics to pull you far away from the purpose that God called you. But it all worked out for my good though, because you can put me in a hellish situation, and it may hurt and it may be painful. It may feel like I want to give up. But best believe I'm busting hell wide open. I'm coming out with some things, and I'm coming out with some people, because I'm pulling some people out with me. And just like I know, as a minister, as a speaker, that's what we doing anyway. We pulling the people out with us.
Right.
So, and I'm very, I'm coming to a point too where I'm very transparent about my journey. Um, so that I can help other people. But going back to little Ken, he was so hurt. He was so distraught. And he went through the challenges, and I didn't know how to deal with the stuff that I was dealing with. And I had the anger issues, because just like us boys, and you have grown men now crying out for help, and in their way and form of crying out for help is through anger, not justifying, how, their reactions and all that kind of stuff, but it's hurt. And as a young boy, I was crying out for help, and it was like, who is going to help the little boy? Who is going to help? Who is going to pull out the king and show him that he's royalty? And nobody at that time showed me the king. Nobody showed me the royalty, but they showed me the gangster.
Mhm.
And even then, a lot of people didn't think, that no one expected me to become the gangster that I became. It's called, because anything that I do, I put my all into it, because I'm trying my best to become the best at it. So
Right.
it's like I'm gonna play that back scene for a minute, but best believe, like I said, I'm busting hell wide open, and I'm coming out with some people, and I'm coming out and I'm leading the pack. So that was that journey for me, and what led little Ken into Crazy K.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to something you said also, because first of all, you mentioned about being a preacher and a minister, and being at the point now where you talk, and it's like, but if you saw me on the other day, I'm really a quiet person, right? And so I have that same story. Like, I'm really quiet,
Yeah,
and but it's like, when I get behind the mic, then it's like, all right, it's another thing. And so it's
yeah,
just like, a whole nother person. I had somebody ask me recently that grew up with me, and just like, I never would have saw this. For you, it's like, not the little quiet dude that be sitting in the corner, but now you on stages and on podcasts and all that stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just one of those things, one of those mysteries,
yeah.
right? But I wanted to ask you, first of all, I wanted to ask you, are you a PK?
No,
No, okay, all right. So for my listeners, I know you probably heard it before, but a PK is a preacher's kid or a pastor's kid, right? And so sometimes, uh, those of us that are raised that are PKs, sometimes we, for whatever reason, go the opposite way. You know what I mean? It's just like you raised up in a household, like and you learn, righteousness and what's the right way to go, and it just be like, yeah, I'm going this way.
Yeah.
So that happens often, and so that's why I ask. So sometimes when we have those come to Jesus moments when He reels us back in, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a PK, so I knew better anyway. You know what I mean? One of those type deals. But I want to go back to what you're saying because it seems like when you had this, when you had when the drug bust happened, and now you're locked up, and now you've come to terms with like, all right, you heard the voice of God speaking to you. It seems like it was almost like an instant thing,
Yeah.
right? Because now you were talking about, you being the gangster and the drug dealer that's locked up, but now you're leading everybody in prayer. It's like, okay, you just got locked up yesterday. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So how you preaching and praying today? So it seems like it was kind of a instantaneous thing. So was there, or should I say this? How much of a part did even the, should I say, church or preacher part of you was a part of you even while you were, crazy K, so that when you did hear the voice of God speaking to you, saying like, okay, now it's time, you know, it was easy for that part of you to start pushing forward automatically. You know what I mean? And to like the transition start changing.
Man, that's a good question. Um, I always knew God was there. Man, okay, I love this. And there was always a battle between me and God because I was angry at God. And I kid you not, because it was times I would cuss God out, and I was just angry. And I see things. I'm a visionary, so I see things in visions, and I kind of explain them that way. And I used to do a little rapping, and in my raps, I used to talk about me and the devil. If one moment he's like my homie, he's my best friend, but then at the same time we're fighting each other. So I already had a foundation of God. And I would think of, and one thing that came to mind, um, my aunt, she gave me Kurt Franklin's God Property album with The Storm Is Over Now and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And she used to tell me, when you feel like you're going through something, play this CD. We're back in CDs back then.
Mhm.
But and there was times I really did play that. So, it was there. The praying, all of that was there. And I told you the drug bust happened June the 4th. I got out that same night, got out on bail. I was sentenced November the 4th, 2003. So in between June and November, I was getting equipped. I spent a lot of time in prayer, a lot of time studying the word, just a lot of time with God. So it was looking at it now, I was being prepared for being in jail. And as crazy as it sounds, I didn't have a bad experience in jail. And it was almost like I actually enjoyed it, man, because I was in there on a purpose. I
Mhm.
wasn't in there, yeah, I was doing my time, but it was like I was there on a purpose and a mission too. So I think that will answer your question of how and I guess I kind of did just stumble and walk into the speaking, because now I think about it, it did just kind of happen. And I think that was my preparation before, once I got out, the speaker, the preacher, all of that stuff. I didn't even realize, that I was doing what I knew what I would be doing, what was said I would be doing. I just walked into it, I just followed God.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounded like you were almost you got locked up, but it was almost like you was doing a revival.
Yeah.
You was doing a revival of yourself, but at the same time, like having revival while you were there. And so it just kind of changed the whole scenery. And you mentioned about going back to us listening to CDs. I know definitely depending on the age of the listener, they're like a CD, you know what I mean? But I definitely remember CDs and that Marvin Sapp's Grace and Mercy CD,
Yeah.
right? I don't even know how many years old that CD is, but I still have that CD and I still play it now. That's one of the like when they ask you like if you can only take three things on the island with you, like
Yeah.
and you can only take one CD or three CDs. That's definitely one of my top ones,
Yeah.
because for whatever reason I just connected with that one, and it definitely has helped me get through a lot of days. And like I said, I still have that CD now and I still play it, every now and then. So yeah, it's something about the word, and whatever format that you get it,
Yeah.
it does something to you, and it changes you. And so, we just have to take it as we get it. So yeah, definitely CDs. It might be downloads now, whatever they want to call it. So I want to talk a little bit about, the name of the podcast, your podcast is Relentless Conversation,
Yeah.
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that oftentimes you go by the Relentless Motivator,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so it seems that, being relentless is a big part of who you are. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like how you begin to build that muscle, and even give us maybe some tips or some tangible ways, even how the listeners can probably glean from you to be able to become relentless in their own situations.
So here's the funny story. So in my downtime, I like to play NBA 2K.
Mm-hmm.
Been on it for a few years now. It was I can't remember what year that was, but probably like 16 or 17. Um, I was playing it, and the announcer made the statement that he's relentless or something like that. And for whatever reason, relentless stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like it was just on the forefront. And from that moment, I held on to that word. And I won't even lie to you, man. Before last year, had you asked me what relentless meant, it meant for me back then kicking in the door and going after whatever it is you want, let nothing stop you. Like it's that aggressive approach,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of tied it into my street persona from my past. But last year, life hit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's when I really had to be relentless. Where I wanted to give up, where I wanted to quit, and I in that moment, it changed for me, and God started birthing a new version of what it means to be relentless. And I'm real about it, and even and it has changed the conversations on my podcast too, where we talk about those journeys where you're gonna want to give up, you're gonna want to quit. That's reality. That's realness. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have those moments where life is gonna hit you so hard. It's gonna knock you to the floor, and they're down to the count of almost 9, and you're gonna have to get back up. You're gonna feel like I just want to lay here. Man, this hurts. Man, this is painful. Man, I don't want to get up from this, man. I don't think I'm gonna recover from this. But it's something that you gotta pull up from the inside of you. And what I like to say, you gotta get that relentless mindset. And you gotta, like I often tell people, you gotta leave no days left behind. What do you mean by no days left behind, Kay? What I mean by no days left behind is you're gonna have a bad day. No doubt about it. It's be 100, which I'm not gonna sit here and tell you every day is gonna be good. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you every day is gonna be great. But one thing about it, you're gonna have a bad day, but you still do something in that day. I don't care if it's one thing or whatever. You do one thing, you leave no days left behind. Because one step is still a step. You don't have to take like those 10 and 20 steps like you normally do. But if you just take that one step to keep going, that's what relentless is being about. When you want to give up, when you want to quit, and you say, you know what, I'm still gonna take a step. That's being relentless. Yeah, it hurts, but I'm still gonna take a step. Yeah, it's painful, but I'm still gonna live my life. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, I want to cry. I want to do everything. I want to kick. I want to scream, but I'm still gonna give up. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna live life. I'm gonna go to work. I may put on this fake smile while I'm at work, but I'm still gonna keep going. I still gotta live my life some kind of way, as painful as it is. And what I'm also learning, and I'm still a work in progress with this, is
Mhm.
you have a whole community around you. You know that you say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, us as adults too, we still need that same village. So now I'm learning, and I talk about that in my book, Be Relentless, where sometimes you're gonna have that journey where you got to take that journey alone, and then there's sometimes you got those people that's with you.
Mhm.
I had those people that was with me. Don't get me wrong. I had a moment where I was alone too, and it was literally at the beginning of the storm that I went through last year, where I was alone. And it was like everybody that I poured into, everybody that I prayed for, that I was with them on their journey, it's like they ghosted me. And I carried that hurt for a while. And, God even checks me sometimes now, come on, bro, get, check yourself. And I, I had to let that go, but then I also looked back on it and I was like, you know what? That really worked out for me because I had to have that moment to be alone with the Father.
Mhm.
And we have to look at those moments because it was in the moment that Jacob was by himself and he wrestled with God that he got his new identity. And it was in that moment where I was alone and I was wrestling with God for my new identity. Just like I said, what relentless meant for me before last year had changed. So I was wrestling with God for the new identity of what relentless means, which is now, I'm even more transparent on this journey. Before we even start recording, I was telling you it's been a stressful 2 weeks, dealing with work and just life in general. So I had to put a pause for a week on the podcast because I have to take care of me too. That's
Mhm.
transparency. I can't be everything for everybody else if I'm not being everything for me. And right now, that is another journey that I'm on, is what I have been for everybody else, because and that's the kind of person I am. You tell me you going through something or you got some kind of beef or something, that's always been me. Well, let's go. Let's get it. Who we need, I'm telling you, well, who we need to ride on? We need to ride on the devil. Let's go. Do we need to fast and pray? Let's go. I'm that person. I'm that friend in your life that I'm gonna always be ready to ride. I'm down for whatever. But now I have to be that for me. And like I said, it's still a work in progress because I spent so many years being everything for everybody else that I was neglecting who I am. I was neglecting Kenneth Noel Jordan. I was forgetting about him. So now I have to look in the mirror and be that. What everything else I was for everybody else, I have to be that for me.
Yeah.
Is it easy? Sometimes no. And even crying out for help, knowing when I need help. Is it always easy because I'm so used to having to push through it, or I'm gonna figure it out? And me trying to figure things out came back to bite me, man. Because because of my pride and my ego, that this is my problem. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm a bit full transparent. Having that kind of mindset got my car repossessed
Mhm.
because I didn't want to ask for help, because I was like, I'm gonna have to figure this out myself. And the first thing when I finally asked for help, of course, after the fact, the first question was, "Well, why you didn't ask for help during the process?"
Hmm.
Man, was that a slap in the face? Because it's now dealing with everything that God has been dealing with me about, asking for help in the process of it.
Right.
And I think sometimes as men, we wait until we're almost on the borderline of I ain't gonna say death, but in some cases death.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll wait until we're there at death's door and then decide we want to ask for help because our pride and our ego. And I get it because we're men. We're the head. We want to figure things out, but we can't. We're not gonna always have the solutions. We're not gonna always have the answers, and that's okay. And I want to release people of that because I thought I had to have all the answers and everything because I'm that leader. I'm that leader at work. Everywhere I go, I'm a leader. So I gotta have the answers, but I don't have the answers, and that is okay.
Hmm.
So now I gotta go to the people who I know have the answers, who have the resources. And again, it's okay to cry out for help. It's okay to ask for the help.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel you because while you talking, man, and I'm just thinking about my own journey, and you're mentioning how like last year was such a turning point and really redefined of what it meant to be relentless,
Yeah,
and I can definitely relate to that story. My story probably started more so like 3 years ago. And I now I can joke about it and say I think I was going through a midlife crisis,
yeah,
but it was a lot of changes at one time. We had the pandemic going on. We had at that time I was working uh, doing home health care, and I work in construction too, but I was doing home health care too. So having to care for people that had COVID during COVID when nobody really knew what that was. You know what I'm saying? And then even losing some coworkers,
yeah,
to COVID during that time period. Also going through a divorce during that time period. My kids growing up, my daughter was the youngest of my kids. She just turned 21, so she was the baby, and now she was grown. So it was like, okay, who am I in this new space? You
yeah,
know what I mean? And trying to figure that out, like, I'm not the husband that I was, because now I'm going through this divorce, and I'm still a father, but now that looks different because now the kids are young adults now, and now they're kind of moving on their own, and even how work and the pandemic and just a whole lot of things going on at the same time.
yeah,
And so definitely finding myself in that space where again I wasn't asking for help either, and it was so bad then because even I end up losing my mom around that same time period.
yeah,
And so it's just like one thing after another, and I find myself in this dark hole of depression and really thinking about taking my own life.
yeah,
And so it was those people that came to my aid, the family and friends and loved ones that came to my aid and was strength for me when I couldn't be strength for myself.
yeah,
And so now I'm big on that now. Again, like you mentioned about asking for help and not being ashamed to say, hey, I need someone. Because I know that had it not been for someone being strength for me when I was at my weakest point, I
yeah,
probably wouldn't be here. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I probably wouldn't, and so I'm very vocal about that. Also, it's like, look, as men, a lot of times we don't ask for help because we want to be, and I don't even want to always blame it on pride because all the time it's not even our pride, but sometimes it's just being men and just not want to ask for help. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And especially when you're the one that everybody's always calling for help. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, so who does the strong person go to when they're not strong? You know what I mean?
That
And
part.
so that's always a question, right? And it's definitely a question amongst the people who are the strongest, or
Yeah,
the people who are the strong friends, because oftentimes we don't think about it, and we don't like to think about it because now we got to admit that there are some weaknesses in us. But I think it is a conversation that we have to have more often. It's like, okay, I'm the strong one, but who am I going to go to when I'm not strong? And we got to think about it because eventually something is going to happen,
yeah,
and going to catch us off guard. And it's like, all right, now I need help. And I think it's important for us to know who we can lean on before we have to lean on them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because again, if we find ourselves feeling hopeless and helpless in our own journey, and feeling like we don't have anyone else that we can reach out to or connect to, we might find ourselves in a bad space, in a bad predicament. So, yeah, so I definitely can and agree with you and relate to that journey. But we made it out, right? We
Yeah.
made it out, and we're on the other side of it, and now we can use our testimonies, to help others, right? To voice
Yeah.
the comeback to others,
And
and
let me say this.
mhm,
Why it's on my mind. Sometimes I well, let me put it this way. I'm big on taking the lessons out of each thing I learn from. And I think sometimes that's the biggest mistake that we make is we don't get the lessons out of it.
mhm,
Because those lessons, those are the gems. And if you don't leave out with something, you better leave out with those lessons. And each lesson makes me greater. And even the lessons, as I'm talking about the lessons, God had been dealing with me since last year about how I was structuring my business.
mhm,
And he was telling me, in order for me to bless your business now, you got to make sure it's structured correctly. And it was certain things and practices that I didn't have in place that I had to now get in place, and life had to happen for me to get it in place. I had to be knocked upside the head a little bit
mhm.
to get those things in place because I'm hard headed sometimes.
And we all.
Yeah, so God have to knock me upside the head sometimes. So, but it was those lessons that I had to learn that okay, X, Y, and Z has to be aligned correctly now. It's nothing personal, but it's just business.
Mhm,
And it's like I had to look at business from a different perspective now. I was telling my therapist one time, I was so afraid of going into that business mindset and structure that I knew I had from selling drugs because I didn't want to look like I was hustling people or something like that. But I had to tell myself, you're not that anymore.
mhm,
Yeah, you have the lessons from it. Yeah, you have the business mindset. Because let's be real about it. A drug dealer was a businessman. So you had the structure and the mindset that you needed for it, but now, and you can use that for now. But don't sit there and think that you are your past. You are not your past. And I think, sometimes people can hold you to your past, but sometimes you can hold you to your past.
mhm,
And that was me. I held me to my past. I held myself hostage. And because I held myself hostage, I couldn't go forward. And because I couldn't go forward, I was hindering the entire process of everything that God wanted to do. It wasn't the devil holding me back. It wasn't no other person holding me back. It was me holding me back. So
yeah.
yeah, I had to drop that real quick.
Yeah. And you talked about the lessons, and one thing my former pastor used to say, he said, oftentimes we ask, how long would this test last? And he always say, it'll last until you pass. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's learning those lessons, in whatever that we're going through, whatever tests and trials that we're going through, sometimes we have to repeat them because we
Yeah,
don't learn the first time,
yeah,
and so it's like, all right, well, you got to take it again. And I often say, when you find yourself, over a period of time, yet you're still going through the same kind of situations over and over again, and finding yourself in the same place over and over again, then you haven't learned the lesson. You haven't learned what you were supposed to learn the first time, and so you got to take it again. You got to take that test again. So sometimes it's best to try to learn it the first time.
but it's so crazy about that. Some people feel like just because it seems like the test keeps repeating itself, they take that as a sign that maybe I need to quit.
Hmm.
And that's not what it's saying. And that is a big pet peeve of mine, by the way, that people feel like, well, maybe this a sign that it is not, it shouldn't be, or that it's not going to work out, or something like that. No, it's a sign that you need to learn the lesson in it. What is it that you need to learn in this process right now? What is it that you're not seeing? Because just like you said, if you don't pass that test, what happens? You got to take it over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And that is, man, that's God's grace right there. Because let's be real about it. You fail that test in school, that's it for it. Now you fail the grade, you're gonna have to take it over again. You
Mhm.
fail the 11th grade, they're not gonna promote you to the 12th grade. Then you're not gonna get promoted to the next phase in your life if you're not learning the lessons.
Mhm.
And the problem is people don't want to do mirror work. They don't want to look at themselves. A lot of people can't progress and grow because they're not looking at themselves. They don't want to do the work. And some people are in denial. They're lying to themselves. They're telling themselves that I'm healed, I'm this, I'm that, but you haven't really done the work to heal. And the funny thing about it is, in certain situations, those certain things that you're saying you healed from then shows up.
Right.
But then we call it the devil. No, that's just your lesson that you need to see.
Yep.
That's just that mirror popping up saying you need to look at this. But and it's easier to blame everybody else.
Yeah. All right, all right. So, man, first of all, I want to say we definitely was dropping some jewels in this episode.
Yeah,
But before we get out of here, I want you to talk about a little bit about the books because you got two books, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah,
right? So tell us a little bit about the books and where we can find those at.
yeah. They hold on, let me get it right. So those are my two books right there. Be Relentless and Unlocking the Treasures from Within. Unlocking the Treasures from Within was my first book. And I'm just really giving practical information, godly principles on unlocking those gifts that God has put in you. Where what I'm talking about, your praise is your key. Different situations, that I've been through when it comes to unlocking my treasures, unlocking my gifts, time that I spent in worship, things like that. And then of course, there's Be Relentless. Be Relentless was when I start coming into the person that you see now. And just that journey of being relentless and going after the things that you want to go after, because so many times we're going to have those obstacles face us. That comes as soon as you start, soon as you say, oh, I want to do this, all of those obstacles going to say, oh, okay, so let's defense, let's line up right now. He think he fit to score this touchdown. So let's show them. And not only people on the field, you got people on the sidelines that's telling you to quit, that's telling you to give up because they never experienced it. And when they see you going through life's journeys, they're telling you because they didn't keep going. Maybe you should give up on it. Maybe it's not meant to be, or something like that. But you have to be relentless. So
Yeah.
yeah, those were my two books. Are I got about two or three other books that I'm sitting on that, and I probably sitting on for some years now that have yet to be released. But it might be time for me to get ready to release those. I actually just started another one today called Still Relentless. That's
Okay.
that book has been in my spirit for a while now. So and it's gonna basically talk about this journey from last year to now, where I still had to be relentless.
All right, all right. Can't wait to hear it, man. I definitely know that process. Um, I've been working on a book for a minute, so I'm
Yeah,
working on one now, and I already got two more in the back of my head that, like you said, just sitting in the background. Like, all right, we ready to come forth too. So I definitely know how that can
yeah,
be right in that journey. So, Kay, I want to say first of all, thank you for being on. Right, thank you for
yeah,
taking out the time to come on and to share your expertise and share your story. I want you to have the last word. I want you to leave us with a word of advice, inspiration, however you feel, and also leave us with your social media handles where we can find the podcast and all of that. And so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you like this podcast and you've been thinking to yourself, you know what, I wouldn't mind having my own podcast, then you can get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook in only 3 steps. Again, start your podcast in only 3 steps. I wrote this ebook because I was often asked, what do I need to do to start a podcast? And so I wrote this ebook for you to be able to start your own podcast. Again, you can get your copy of Start Your Podcast Now ebook at ebooks.ejames.com. Again, that's ebooks.ejames.com in order to get to start your own podcast. Also, make sure you guys are going to my main website, which is the Deal Heal Fulfill .org website. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org website, because my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So if you go to that website, you can find out more about me personally and everything that I have going on. Also, you can click on the book me tab in order to book me to come out to be a speaker or to facilitate a workshop for your school or organization. Also, make sure you guys go to ebooks by ejames.com in order to check out the ebooks that I have available. I mentioned about to start the podcast now ebook, but we also have From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. We have Forgiving Me, the 4 steps to self forgiveness ebook. And then we have the Core Four, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should receive from her father. That is the ebook that we talk about a lot on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Make sure you guys go and check us out there. Last but not least, make sure you guys are also checking us out at our inspirational t-shirt line, where we also have our t-shirt, our podcast merch, should I say, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. We have one for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast logo, one also with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast logo, and we have our regular inspirational t-shirts that is also there. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. So make sure you go to healtees.com, deal2healtees.com to check out our inspirational t-shirt line. And now this is the last but not the least part. I've been blessed the last year or so to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every it used to be every quarter of the year. Now it's every other month. So we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about everything forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world. What does it mean to forgive? How does forgiveness even affect our bodies? Really having a discussion about forgiveness. And I really think that is very important and very impactful. So whenever you're listening to this, either a workshop just ended or one is coming up. So you can go to forgivenessmission.com in order to sign up for our free virtual workshops on forgiveness, or go to Eventbrite and just look up forgiveness workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. So make sure you guys go there and check us out. So once again, Kay, I want to say thank you again for being on. Thank you for sharing your story, and I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
Man, first of all, again, thank you for having me on the platform, man. It's such an honor, man, for real. I don't think lightly of this, man, and you killing it, bro. I love everything that you're doing, man. Um, you're an inspiration to me. So I just want to tell you thank you for real.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, and everyone can find me on all social media platforms as K Noel Motivates. That's KNOEL MOTIVATES. K Noel Motivates. You can find my website, relentlessmotivationalgroup.com. And I also have a website for my podcast, which is relentlessconversations.com. So be sure to, look me up, grab a book, subscribe to my podcast, my YouTube channel. You can find everything somewhere in between those two websites. I also do the social media management, like I said. But as far as this inspiration, what I would say to anyone listening right now, don't give up. And it may be hard right now. You may be going into a season and you may be coming out of it. But I just want to first tell you, and it's just hitting my spirit right now, congratulations. Congratulations for your elevation. And yeah, you may be looking, if you're going into it now, you're like, man, Kay, what you talking about? Because this is hitting. But I want you to keep in mind that there's some lessons that you're about to learn in this situation. I want you to keep in mind that God is having a journey with you right now. He's having a one-on-one moment with you right now. You're having a Jacob experience right now where you're about to get a new identity, where everything in your life is about to change right now. I'm not saying it's going to change instantly. I don't know the time frame that God has for you, but all I do know is congratulations. Things are about to change for you. Things will get better. One thing about the weather, one thing about seasons, they all change. I don't know how long it's going to take. Hey, I'm talking to you from experience right now. It's been almost a 2-year journey for me, but I'm still pushing it. Do I want to give up sometimes? Do I want to quit sometimes? Do I question who I am sometimes? Absolutely. But I pick up that relentless mindset. I do the mirror work. I look myself in the mirror and I remind myself of who I am. And I want to remind you of who you are, that you are great, that you are powerful, that you will make a great impact on the world. The world needs you. Don't you dare quit right here where you are, because there's somebody else who's going to come through this same journey right behind you, and they're going to need your empowerment. They're going to need your wisdom. They're going to need the strength that God has given you in this journey that you're going through right now. They're going to need you. So don't you dare give up. Don't you dare quit. Leave no days left behind. And most importantly, you be relentless.
That's it. That's it. And I know y'all liked it. That make sure y'all go check out his podcast, The Relentless Conversations, and definitely look up the episode with your boy. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.